All right, everybody, welcome into the Week 7 NFL DraftKings pick show. Today I'm going to be going through a couple of my favorite individual players by position, and then I'm going to go into 3 of my favorite stacks this week. So all pricing will be from DraftKings, but this will be applicable to wherever you play DFS. So let's just get right into it. All right, starting out at the running back position, it's going to be Ezekiel Elliott at 7,800. Zeke's got a great matchup this week going against the Washington defense, and I don't suspect he's going to be very highly owned. You've got a lot of big hitters this week at the top with Aaron Jones going against a weak defense from Houston. We've got Derrick Henry. We've even got Alvin Kamara, who's probably going to have a great game against Carolina. These 4 guys are all great individually, but Zeke is going to see the lowest ownership, and he has an impressive matchup against Washington. He's going to get a good amount of targets from a team that pass rushes a lot. There's going to be a lot of checkdowns to him, and I think Zeke is going to be able to take advantage of this matchup and hopefully reestablish himself after embarrassing himself last week when everyone was watching. Next up, I'm going to be talking about Kareem Hunt at 6,800 going against the Cincinnati Bengals. The facts are Cincinnati really can't stop anyone, and I think this game is going to shoot up in score a little bit, so I'm going to be targeting a couple different players from this game. I think Kareem Hunt is a great play to have on the side. He's going to be the bell cow. He's going to be the guy. Yes, there are going to be those other 2 running backs that will take away some touches, but Kareem Hunt really is the guy. And they are going to be trying to play a very controlled game with Baker Mayfield still facing injuries. The final running back I'm going to be talking about is J.D. McKissic at 4,600. This week we're going to have a lot of expensive stacks, and we've got to find some salary relief somewhere. I think McKissic is a better play in cash than he is in DFS due to not having an extremely high upside. But he does provide value. He's gotten over 6 catches in last just 3 games, and even last week he got 8 carries on the ground. He was the number 1 running back on the year for the Washington football team in terms of snaps. So McKissic is a guy to watch out for. I think he has pretty much a 10-point floor penciled in. I don't love him in DFS, but I think he's a good guy to go to in cash, especially if you need salary relief. A lot of people are going to be on Kenyon Drake this week due to the fact that his pricing was made before his extremely good game against the Cowboys. But I think this is a good way to get away from a chalky Kenyon Drake, who I'm going to be fading this week. Next up, I'm going to be going into wide receivers. But before I list out who I'm interested in, just a reminder, most of my favorite wide receivers are going to be in the stacks. These are just individual plays that I think you can put into your lineups to either save some salary or be a little bit different. So I'm going to start out with Keenan Allen at 6,200 of the Chargers. He's going to be back and healthy this week against the struggling Jacksonville team. I think Jacksonville will be able to keep this to a close enough game where I think Keenan Allen is still going to get enough target share to be relevant. I expect him to have over 10 targets this game, and I don't think it's hard to say he'll score a touchdown. I'm a big Keenan Allen fan, and I think he's going to come through this week. I don't see a lot of ownership on him. 6,200 is a little cheap for him being the guy, so I'm going with it. Number 2, I'm going with Robbie Anderson at $6,000 this week. Yes, he is going to be facing a pretty good defense in the Saints, and Janoris Jenkins will probably be back and healthy this week. But Robbie Anderson isn't the guy he used to be. He's not the guy that just runs downfield and catches 50-50 balls. Carolina has made it a point to get him the ball close to the line of scrimmage and let him make plays. So that means that matchups aren't really a big deal to me. I think he can work around it. And I think $6,000 is too low of a price for how impressive he's been this year. Robbie Anderson is going to be one of my favorite plays this week, and I don't think anyone else really shares that sentiment. So I'm very excited to fire him up. Another guy in this price range that I'm going to be going with is Terry McLaurin at 5,800. Yes, he will be popular going against a Cowboys secondary that can't stop anybody. But I still think he will be a valuable play. I mean, if there's ever been a time for a guy like this to explode, it's going to be this week. All the other weapons on Washington are injured except for Dontrell Inman, so his competition is at an all-time low. Terry is the number 1 guy, and I think 5,800 is just too low for him. So I'm sticking with the mid-range plays a wide receiver, as you can see this week. But that doesn't mean that's what you're limited to. I just think those are some of the best value plays without going all the way to the top and to try to save a little bit of money in between these expensive stacks. And finally, I'm going to be going into tight end plays. We got Austin Hooper at $4,000. You see a little bit of correlation with Kareem Hunt earlier. I like having a little bit of mini correlated stacks within my greater stacks, and these two are definitely what I'm going to be focusing on with Hooper and Hunt. I think Cooper has a pretty safe floor, and I think there's a chance for him to get in the end zone this week. We've seen Jarvis Landry's either going to be injured, or he is injured, but he's either going to be playing extremely hobbled or out with a broken rib this week. So I think we're gonna see a conservative offense that targets a safety valve like Austin Hooper. Next, I'm going to be talking about Big Bob Toynian from the Green Bay Packers, 4,600, in a game that he just disappointed a lot of people last week. We've seen a very high expected game total for this game, and I think it isn't too hard to say that he might find his way in the end zone. He seems like a target Rodgers likes, and yeah, I think he has a good chance of getting in the end zone. Finally, we're going to be going Dalton Schultz, 3,900, with the Dallas Cowboys. This seems too low. I mean, he had five receptions last week in a blowout game. Even before they were getting blown out, even when it was relatively close in the beginning, it seemed like he was a safety valve that Andy Dalton was targeting. So I think he'll have a pretty safe floor once again. I bet we'll see 4 or 5 receptions. Hopefully he finds his way into the end zone. I think this is a pretty safe play, probably better for cash than GPPs, but I don't mind Dalton Schultz, especially at a 3,900 price point. Not going to try to punt at tight end as much this week. I was successful with Trey Burton and Darren Fells last week, but normally those kind of min salary or close to it plays don't turn out well every week. So this is what I'm sticking with at tight end, and now I'm going to head into my stacks. And finally, I'm going to be talking about my favorite stacks of the week. We're going to be starting it out with the Seattle Seahawks going against the Arizona Cardinals. This is going to be the obvious one. This is going to be the most popular one, but I'm going to tell you what I'm doing anyway. We're going with Russell Wilson at the top. I'm going to his 2 favorite targets, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and we're going to run it back with Christian Kirk, who's going to be cheap this week, even if he's popular. I think Kirk has been very good against zone coverage, and I think he'll seek to exploit it even more against Seattle, who runs the 3rd most zone coverage in the league. I think this is an obvious stack. This game's most likely going to shoot out, and these are the guys who I'm going to be going to. All right, next up, I'm going to be going with the Green Bay Packers against the Houston Texans. This seems like another pretty obvious pick, and will probably be the 2nd most popular on the slate, but I'm going to be going with Aaron Rodgers, followed by Devontae Adams and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I think you can also go to Aaron Jones, or you can go to the tight end. It's really up to you. There's a lot of pieces to balance this week, and with a game with such high, in fact, the highest implied game total of the week, I think there's going to be a lot of pieces to exploit, so it's kind of up to you. I'm going to be running it back mostly with David Johnson. I definitely like Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks in different spots, but David Johnson is going to be under-owned. Packers have had one of the worst run defenses in the league, and I think the Texans are going to look to exploit it in spots, even when they might have to throw a lot. I still think David Johnson's going to get a chance, and I think he could explode this week. So David Johnson's going to be a prime run back candidate for me, and I'm definitely going to be all over him. And finally, I'm going to be talking about the Titans versus Steelers game, and I'm going to be going with the Titans in this one. So we're going to fire up Ryan Tannehill with A.J. Brown, and then possibly Jonnu Smith if he plays, and if not, you can go with Anthony Ferkser. And then you have a pretty easy run back on this side. There's a lot of options for the Steelers, whether you want to go with James Conner or you want to go with one of the wide receivers. I'm going to be thinking Claypool as my main run back, but this game is definitely being undervalued right now. It has a high game total at 50, and I think people are just caught up in all the other games that they're going to leave this one a bit under-owned. So I would definitely target this game. There's a lot of good pieces all around. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it.